And I've never once seen a peer-reviewed article say dam removal as a tool to degrade rivers. It's always in the context of restoration. Dam removal and restoration they're pretty much one and the same.
I admit, change is scary. It's scary. But we're going to turn the clock back 400 years and watch this river return to what it was like before we put a dam on it.
Removing our dam is absolutely imperative to addressing what is about to happen and get worse relative to climate change mitigation. Thank you.
An interesting part of the project to me is the people part of it, because I'm a scientist and I look at things from a numbers standpoint and from an ecological standpoint. We know that these projects work. We know that they're good for the environment, and this one would be no exception. It would be one of the most impactful projects that we could do, not only in our watershed, but in the whole region. And we know that because of the work that's been done to this point. We know what the river used to be like before the dam. We know what other rivers are like nearby that don't have dams like this. And we know what happens when we take dams out on rivers like this. Fish come back, the river starts to heal itself. I mean, this project's important to me on a personal level too. I grew up in Ipswich. We were driving by we just drove by right at the street I grew up on. This is where my grandmother lives and still lives. She's lived there probably for 80 years. You know, when people talk about why this project means so much to them, because Ipswich is their home and has everything they know and love, like, that's for me too.
Gordon Harris. I'm the Ipswich Town historian. In this community conversation we're having, a lot of time it's brought up that the dam is historic. It is historic in the sense that about 120 years ago or so it was built to power the Ipswich hosiery mill. That mill existed into the 1920s. But the interesting thing about this is that the actual use of the mill dam for running these machines was a very brief period. I think we can pretty well speculate that for the last almost 100 years, the dam has not served the purpose for what it was built, for water power. And when we have this one blockage here, this chokehold on the river, it's amazing how it affects things upstream. It's a man-made dam. It's an obstacle to the actual natural history of the Ipswich River.
When the Ipswich Mills Dam was built, there was a trade-off, and the people who built it knew there was a trade-off. There was a trade for blocking migratory fish, which people knew to be important, and changing the character of the river for the benefits of the power that was needed for industry. That industry no longer uses the power, but the rest of the trade-offs still remain. It's still blocking fish migration, it's still impacting the ecology of the river, and it still presents a risk of failure during a large storm event. So removing the Ipswich Mills Dam now stands to reason because you're still paying the costs and not getting the benefit.
Hey, Neil.
Hey, Margo. Ready to do some monitoring?
Absolutely, let's go.
My name is Margot Kelly. I've lived in Ipswich for a little over 10 years now. I'm an environmental studies student at college, so I've learned a lot about rivers and watersheds, and I deeply appreciate the different services that the Ipswich River provides. But aside from that, I also am deeply appreciative of its innate beauty. So I've had a pretty strong connection with the river growing up here. I think that the Ipswich River brings so much joy to our town, and it has really shaped our town culture. And so therefore, we have a responsibility to protect it. I found the dam removal project to be really confusing when I first was introduced to it, just in that I didn't really understand the impacts or the reasons for it. But I think that IRWA has done a really good job of clearly communicating why this project is relevant to our town and what the town should be expecting throughout the entire process, throughout the removal, and then what will happen afterwards.
A lot of people have concerns about the post-dam removal looking like mud flats or just muck forever. And so, but we know from other projects that as soon as you allow those banks to be re-exposed to air that have been submerged underwater for decades, there's vegetation that will come up the immediate next growing season. There's a seed bank that's naturally gone dormant, sitting under the impoundment in the pond for all these years. And so we can be confident that things are going to revegetate. And we're also going to be introducing a pretty rare freshwater tidal habitat where for the first time in 100 plus years, tides will actually be able to rise and fall again. A big question that people have is, how can we be sure that fish are going to come back? It seems like it's a big part of what we're touting as a benefit of dam removal. The habitat is there. It's just become inaccessible over the years. And it's not just Ipswich Mills Dam. There are other barriers along the way, but the Ipswich Mills Dam is the #1 barrier preventing those fish from accessing those habitats.
The Ipswich River has been flowing through Ipswich for perhaps 15,000 years. It was only about 11,000 years ago that Paleo Indians moved into this area. One of the great natural characteristics of the river, and certainly a great resource for the people then, was its annual spring run of the herring. They came up the river by the millions. So even as late as the 1800s, people would be able to, during the spring when the migration is happening, be able to stand there about where our pedestrian bridge is now, and you could dip a net down and bring up hundreds and hundreds of herring. Not only herring, but there were shad, even salmon swam up our river. People will actually come, like they do in many towns in New England, to see the annual run of the herring. It will be a tourist draw for sure, because that pedestrian bridge is just going to be an awesome place to watch that happening. So when we talk about history, there is the man-made history here, but there's a natural history here. When we remove this dam and people see this annual migration of the herring and realize that that's the real history of the Ipswich River, it is a living source of life, not only for these small fish, but for everybody and everything that depends on it. I think it's going to be amazing.
I'm Ann Carroll. I'm an Ipswich resident. I was raised here since I was 3 years old. We're standing next to the Ipswich River. I've lived here at this particular spot along the river for about 6 years now, but have loved having this river part of my life ever since I can remember, since I was very little. So I know that the removal of the dam will bring change, and I know that change can be something that is hard for people, but for me, I really welcome that change. And that's partly because I have faith that it's the right thing to do, but my faith is grounded in facts. I really think this may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something big to really help with essentially like a natural icon for our town, this river, the Ipswich River.
My name's Dan Gilbert, been a lifetime resident of Ipswich, Mass. Yes, I've been a commercial clammer since 1978. I was one of the original clammers that fished the Ipswich flats themselves because they were closed for 90 years. And the Ipswich River Watershed Association was one of the organizations that helped clean up the river and let us, to be able to get downstream and actually clam again, which is a very valuable resource to the town. So the removal of the dam is going to help with the resiliency of the clam beds themselves. If we do not remove that dam, we're going to have problems with the temperature of the water below and above the dam itself. The temperature of the water above the dam is going to explode. That is a stagnant pool during the months of June, July, and August. And that's when the sun beats down the most, and it's going to further destroy the ecosystem within the river itself. We have lost sea worms, we have lost blue mussels because of higher water temperatures, which I think removing that dam is going to help regulate that problem.
With the impacts of climate change and everything that we're facing, I think sometimes people feel helpless and they don't know what to do in their life. They can see the impacts to the environment, and sometimes there's nothing tangible. Well, this is quite tangible, and this is something that we can do. And the path has been laid, the studies have been done, the grant funding has been lined up, so it's not even any cost to the town. So I think it's been put in our laps through a process that has been, a public process, an objective process, a science-based process, a transparent process, one that I really can stand behind, giving us this opportunity as caretakers of this place where we live to take action. And so I don't see how we can't do that.
For the sake of our future generations and our generations now, I think, our legacy is going to be part of our legacy, removing that dam. And if we don't do it, especially when we have the available funds now, our kids and grandkids are saying, what is wrong with you people? Why didn't you do something to circumvent this, to stop this from happening? And it's something we have to do. We have a responsibility to remove that dam. We do.